Meow. Meow.
One man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We got people pouring into the chat already. Welcome in, DJ Moonboy, Hexpedition. Take a break with Jake, of course, our trusty producer, and a whole lot more. We would love to hear from you guys tonight. We got a big show for you. We are talking about, is PulseChain just a meme chain? And tell you right now, they're kind of shutting us up with that question at the moment, because the Pulse tokens, believe it or not, the core coins, Pulse, PulseX, Incentive, the Hexes, even they are pumping right now over the last 24 hours. Now, prices are still slaughtered, but right now, things are looking on the up and up. We're going to discuss some actual bullish price action for the first time in some time, and a whole lot more tonight. So welcome in, everybody. Hit the like if you are just getting in to help support the show, support Real DeFi. We appreciate all you guys being here. Ewok, how are you feeling about the market this evening?
Oh, looking good. Looking good. I love the green candles. It keeps everybody on X pretty quiet, or at least in a good mood, I should say. No fighting. I haven't seen much at all. So definitely lightens the mood. That's a good thing. Hopefully we can keep this up for a little bit. Obviously retracements are good, and it won't last forever, but it is good to see. So yeah,
it is very good to see. Yeah, we're seeing a bullish overall market. I mean, we've had Bitcoin even popping up here over the last day. It's at 71K right now. ETH is at about 3850, still waiting for its breakout. I mean, even after this ETF announcement and everything, we really haven't seen anything too bullish. Haven't even seen it cross 4K. I don't believe it did. And remember, ETH's high last cycle was right around 4,800. Bitcoin has crossed its all-time high a couple of times this year. ETH, we are still front-running its performance. We haven't seen it get to where we want it to get yet. So if you are still here right now, I mean, we've got a window here, and we're going to get into this and everything, but it's June 5th right now. We've got a window. If you just, for whatever reason, stumbled across, are getting interested in cryptocurrency or stumbling across different programs and shows right now and stuff like that, we've got a window, I think, over the next couple of months that the train, I think, is going to be leaving the station to a degree on some assets. I mean, there's always going to be opportunities here and there in crypto, but I mean, I think we are last call for alcohol when it comes to like the best prices you could possibly get on some assets right now. I think that's just where we are headed, even though things have seemed bearish recently. But looking at Bitcoin and ETH, Ewok, if you want to take a look at those, curious what you think of where, not so much Bitcoin really right now, but Ethereum really, because it's maintaining some of the strength that it gained on BTC since the ETF announcement, but still not doing fantastic against it. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, I think it's also just because Bitcoin has performed so damn well this year so far. We've seen it do so great against expectations, where Ethereum like is kind of playing catch up. So we're still, and that ETF isn't trading yet. I mean, we think it's going to be under a month until it's actually live. You know, they have to get things in written well in the ETF fund for investors and doctor it up and make it look like it's a safe whatever they do. But I'm curious, like, where do you think ETH goes from here against BTC? You can look at either asset, whatever you want to. When do you think we'll see that ETF launch, and what will the difference be when it's actually live? Because that's the big thing we want to see.
Well, obviously, I think it's going to take off once it does go live. You've got so much money coming into it, and the liquidity that's out there is just, there's not a whole lot. You know, Richard said it a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week or something? Maybe the week before. How little Ethereum is out there and how much slippage you would eat if you tried to buy a large bag. You know, I'm looking at right now, the BTC ETH ratio, and currently it's 18.6 Ethereum for 1 Bitcoin. So, it has gone down. It was up to 23. So it's definitely pulled back in that. So it's slowly catching up. Ethereum, that is slowly catching up to BTC. Ideal range is probably...
Usually they look at the ratio the opposite way, I know, like BTC to ETH.
Well, that's what we're on.
Well, instead of 18 ETH per BTC, well, whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We can do it that way too. I mean, so if we look at that, you're at 0.05.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and again, it is gaining strength. I was just wondering what the all-time ratio was. And it's all the way back here. It looks like it was 0.15.
There you go. So that's the all-time one. Obviously, ETH is performing better against BTC over time. But yeah, we want to see. I mean, like, it has crept up a little bit on BTC at the moment, but it's just not quite there yet with what we've seen in the news and stuff like that. So I still think, I mean, even though the chart against Bitcoin has looked horrible, I think that we're going to see Ethereum just absolutely take off. Like you said, I mean, once the actual ETF comes out, and we have seen, contrary, like, I think a lot of us, like, our mode of thinking was with the ETFs and stuff was like all this big money was going to come in, and, it would actually hold the price of Bitcoin down because people would be dumping it and stuff like that. And, some of these entities that hold Bitcoin will be dumping it and things. But so far, we've seen kind of opposite behavior, with the BTC one. I mean, and it even led a guy like Richard Hart to tweet out, not that he was necessarily calling this, but I mean, speculating, mentioning even a 240K BTC, whether that is a little bit too bullish or not. Just the fact that somebody with that good of a head on their shoulders has that potential opinion is pretty bullish, which would mean, I mean, you'd be looking at like a $30,000 Ethereum at that point, which we've said before. If we get that, everybody watching this, everybody watching any, crypto YouTube channel here tonight is probably doing really, really well, unless they chop themselves up like trading over the next couple of years.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, the one thing that we do have to keep in mind, and I don't know, because exchanges exist, because everything, especially with Bitcoin, is not on chain, right? With Ethereum, when you do decentralized finance, everything's on chain. All buys come through. But with centralized exchanges, you don't get to see that. Like, you don't get to see. And what makes me wonder sometimes is, will these really pump because how much of it is fractionalized? You know, I mean, how much of this is like spot purchases that they are kind of holding? You know, like you can buy paper gold, right? It's not real gold.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of that that's done out there. It does get manipulated, and the ETFs kind of just cater to that behavior. Sometimes it's not all spot purchases, and that's, you know, it's one thing that it's supposed to be, but we know how these financial institutions can get sometimes when they're collecting money and they'll buy it back and they think maybe hopefully cheaper at some point. You know,
Right.
well, especially once the prices get higher, they'll take paper asset and then try to buy that back as the price goes down on the next cycle. So,
Mm.
you know, it just leads to some of that, and you really have to be careful. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely strengthening BTC because of that. ETF did have a head start. I think normally, had that not happened, you wouldn't see much of a ratio change like it did. There was just so much bullish news for it, and it took off rather early. So now ETH has to play catch up, and that's kind of in the situation we're in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, and I think it's definitely going to catch up. I mean, we got a pretty big window still. I mean, we could have another 18 months, really, roughly, of this. So we
Yeah.
may have a long way to go. And again, we've talked about this timeline. I mean, like everybody was screaming left translated cycle because Bitcoin did so well at the beginning of the year. We've seen it kind of just hang out and pull back a little bit, not pull back anywhere near to where we thought it would. I mean, I think it only dipped into the high 50Ks, you know, in the last few weeks. But I mean, we haven't seen Ethereum pump yet. So I mean, we have got a ways to go, and the longer things take, really, the better, because I mean, it is starting to show us that we might be looking at the traditional cycle here at this
Yep.
point. So yeah, a lot of things to be excited about there. Did you have any final thoughts on that before we move into Pulse
No,
Chain?
I have not been a fan or thought that we would see one of those left translated cycles yet. So it is playing out pretty much, you know, like I thought it would anyway.
I'm really glad we're not either, because it would have many people would have had to adjust on the fly. It would have caught many people off guard, and I
Yeah.
think really bigger wallets and banks and things like that would have benefited way more from a scenario like that.
Yep.
Whereas retail would have gotten caught way off guard. Well, I
Yep.
mean, retail always gets caught off guard, really, but
Usually.
yeah. But the smarter money, I think, would have not been so smart if we had a left translated cycle. So
Right. Right.
moving on to the Pulse Chain ecosystem prices, we are pumping today. It is good to see green and something other than Tangang coins. No offense to them on Pulse Chain. We are seeing Pulse now at 4 zeros and a 5.6. So we're up over that. I know not everybody, some people get pissed about thinking about SAC rate anymore because it's such a distant memory now. But that's been a key number that we've discussed as being 50% off the SAC rate. We are up over the number of 5 right now, and blasted right through it over the last day. Really just huge pump. We got Pulse up 12% on the day. Pulse X is up 17% on the day. It was up over 20 at one point. It's up to 4 zeros and a 2.5. We got incentive token over $3 again now, pumping the hardest over the last 24 hours at 302. Hex is at 7.5 tenths of a penny, and eHex is at almost 2 tenths of a penny again here. So we're seeing the ecosystem rally. Obviously, if you do hold some of the meme coins that we're talking about here tonight, and is Pulse Chain just a meme chain? We're going to get to the Brizology tweet that kind of gave us the talking point for this. So shout out to him if he happens to catch us live or on the replay. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but we're seeing the meme coins obviously pump super duper hard with this pump, depending upon which ones you're looking at. But yeah, what do you make of this move, Ewok? This is kind of out of the blue. Everybody, you can see the sentiment. I mean, this is that whole, you know, we always look at the Wall Street cheat sheet. Everybody seemed to got like the disbelief, like, okay, this is a suckers rally with this. I mean, I do, like, I literally do. I was reflecting on it today, and I'm like, it's nice to see this right now, but I do genuinely think, because of how far back down we've come and kind of done this double bottom, I don't think we're just going to be like out of the woods right now. It's nice to see this now, and maybe it'll end up confirming that this was a bottom that we saw over the last week. But I don't think we're just going to shoot right out of this range. So what do you make of this move?
I think it's a good test, right? We're going to see if some money does start to come in, and if it gets sold down right away, then we're not ready. I think it's kind of let's see how it plays out. Let's see if any entities are throwing any decent chunks at this to see if we really have bottom. You know what I mean? I think it would be a good test. You know, we've got a lot of, like I said, a lot of positive sentiment right now. Hopefully a lot of things have happened that almost look like bottom signals, and we've been saying it forever. Man, that's a bottom signal, or man, that's a bottom signal. But you know, then we get this exchange, and you know, a couple days later you see a bunch of green candles. Now I don't really think that has anything to do with it specifically, but it can't hurt, right? How many millions of users does MEXC have? You know, those are new eyes, and they've been advertising it. So, you know, I've seen it on X or Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I've seen a lot of new PulseChain advertisements because I started to follow them just to keep an eye on it and get sentiment. And it's interesting that, you know, a lot of their other posts or whatever about other coins, they don't get a whole lot of engagement. And then you've got this new PulseChain thing, and you're getting 400 or 500 likes and 50, 80 comments. And, you know, it's just a lot of activity. So hopefully some people are noticing. I'd love to see it. And it'll help build the credibility. You know, a couple more exchanges. I know it's going to take some money. But you get on a couple more exchanges, and now that MEXC has listed it, you've got other ones that are looking at it, right? There's other ones out there that are saying, well, they listed it. They're a top 10 exchange. We may think about picking this up too. So, more eyes is better, always better. Again, green candles always help. Let's see how we can hold on to them. And if it continues to go without a bunch of dumpers, then we should know that we've at least reached that level. Again, like I said earlier, that doesn't mean we're not going to have some pullbacks or some consolidation periods where it kind of evens out a little bit. But as long as we don't see major dumps back down to this level and below, you know, I think we're in the clear for a nice little steady rise for a little bit at least.
You know, I do think it's entertaining. So you brought up the MEXC thing, which is something I wanted to talk about too, is like, people are so quick to react, especially in this market, and really with everything in life these days. I mean, that's just how it is. We're in a, you know, react first, find out what the news actually was second, you know. But when the MEXC thing happened, like, you know, it happened Saturday, June 1st, and everybody was like, you know, within hours of it being launched on there, was like, oh yeah, it looks like it really did a lot for the price. Price isn't doing anything and all this stuff. And it's like, first off, I mean, you did see trading back and forth as soon as it happened, which is customary. I think that was the one thing that was probably, you know, you could have expected. But, you know, you have to give some time for these things to shake out. It isn't just like this happens and bam, you see the movement right away. I mean, even when that's why we talk about sell the news events and things like that. Like, there will be an immediate reaction by the market to many things, but you got to let the dust settle to see what the story actually was. Like, give it a couple of weeks and see, okay, what did actually happen there? Because right now, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that this is just because of the MEXC listing or anything like that. I think that there could definitely be a contributing factor. And I agree with you. I followed them on Twitter too and was like checking out that they were advertising for it. So all we can do is give it a month or two and look back at the chart at this time and see, like, well, okay, did that look like it was partially a catalyst? I mean, like, you can look at the chart and really assign any piece of news to it, but I think it's just a caution for people that, like, when something happens, judging it within like hours of it happening isn't really how to look at it.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, it definitely takes time, and you know, oftentimes it's not always one event. It's a combination of a few things. You know, it's several things happening, whether it be a news article or, you know, the exchange listing or a new project being talked about, or the combination of all of them, right? You know, you just have a lot of positive things happening, and that definitely can turn around mindset. It can turn around moods. People get more excited again, less likely to sell when you start to see the green candles, because you start to think about, okay, now how many X's can we do, right? For the majority of the people, that's what they start to think about. Not, okay, at this level, I'm getting out, you know, because the history that these assets have in the past, they can do thousands of X. They can. We're not saying that we expect that, but we know the possibility. And it's a combination usually of multiple things that start to lead to a nice little run up.
Yeah.
Because markets become efficient over time.
Exactly. Yeah. As a wise man once said. Very well put.
I heard it somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Interesting how that works. But yeah, I want to ask you this final thing on the PulseChain price. And because I just saw somebody tweeting about it, but we haven't seen a nice little pump in Pulse for a while. This is the biggest one we've seen since those times in March, probably. Are we just going to see like the Rock and Rochelle's of the world just bash this right back down? You know what I mean? Like we've seen all these big Hex OGs, big Hex wallets from the past and stuff. And it's like, oh, it looks like we're going to rally. And then we see it start to come back down. Now, I want to say, for anybody who's like not as familiar with like the Hex ecosystem, the PulseChain ecosystem, the fact that we know who some of the dumpers are or whatever, this is a good thing. We've said this a million times. This isn't like Solana or Phantom or Polygon Matic or some of the like Arbitrum Optimism and all that stuff where there were seed rounds, there were investors that got in way before the thing went live at prices that you never were able to see. It's not like that. We actually are able to see this stuff, mostly on chain. In some cases, literally even know who the wallets are connected to. And we, unlike those other chains, were able to buy the lows of PulseChain. We bought the lows of PulseChain. Maybe not like the nut low, but we bought that range of the lows in PulseChain. Whereas many people in those other tokens, there were token unlocks and stuff like that, where the initial investors were able to dump on your heads. That doesn't happen here. Now, yes, there are people that got in years ago on a fair market trade that benefited really well last cycle that could still dump now. That does happen. But I'm just curious as to your opinion, Ewok. Like, do you think, I think you've conveyed this to me before, but do you think we've gotten some of the big whales out of there now that we may be able to start going up with a little bit of air above us this time?
Absolutely. I think a lot of those people that intended to get out, that were tired of waiting, because you forget, this chain's a year old, but we're 3 years deep into our investment. That
was said on that space we listened to the other day, I think. That KG space,
yeah. And it's not just a year-old chain. You've got some people that have been here a while that are ready to move on, especially when they're watching gains on other chains. And, that can be frustrating to somebody that was only looking for maybe a 2 or 3x in the first place. So, yeah, I think a lot of those people have rinsed themselves. I think that from here on out, you're not going to see the massive amounts of dumping. You're going to see it occasionally, but I don't think it'll be to the level that it was before. So I think we've seen the worst. That doesn't mean that there won't be somebody out there that was involved in, you mentioned Rockham. He was a big investor with Overwatch Partners, so his company was one of the big investors, but they also created a pool. So they had a pool of people that they invited in so that they could capture a lot of that. And I think they were probably the 1 or 2 investor, whatever it was. And they got very close to a 2.5x bonus on their money because they participated inside that pool. So a lot of those guys, the 0.5 or even 0.25, of the sacrifice rate was their entry price. So at these levels, I think a lot of those guys have 2x and move on. I think we've seen the worst, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I hope so too. Yeah. I mean, no matter what, we're going to see a little bit of dumping along the way, but as far as like the major ones, that would be nice to leave that in the past. All right. So I just put that up already, but it's all right. Just you want to screw up the show, you go right ahead and do it.
Hey, I'll do what I want.
All right. If you guys are here and enjoying the show, like Music Hex is here from London, please do us a favor and like the podcast, I don't know why I said that, like the video. We appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you very much, producer Jake in the background. Thank you for producing a good show. I want to, but because we have a lot to talk about tonight, I want to just get to the main topic that we made the thumbnail about. And if you want to bring up that Brizology tweet. So I'll go back to the poll question that I did put up for us here tonight, which is, I don't remember. Let me get actually back into the live video. What is your opinion of meme coins. Are meme coins good or bad for PulseChain? So do you think they're great and bring adoption? Do you think, no, you know, they're okay, you're a little wishy-washy, doesn't matter to you, or they extract value and hurt the chain? Overwhelming majority so far, about almost 50%, do say that they're great and bring adoption. About 38% say they're okay, don't matter to me, and 14% are Brizology and think that they extract value and hurt the chain. Not putting words in his mouth, but I think that's kind of what he meant with his tweet, which I thought was great. I'm really glad he did this thought exercise. And thank you for bringing it up, Ewok. So Brizology, of course, he of being on Maddie's stream fame pretty much weekly. He had an interesting engagement with Maddie on last week's show that was interesting for us to watch. But he posts, would you rather have the current PulseChain with all of its glorious memes and current price? He does call them glorious, so that's good. Or a PulseChain with only 4 RH assets and the price of Hex was $1. PulseChain and PulseX both at 1 cent each and Ink at $1,000, but no memes whatsoever, except for Ink, if you consider the number 1 meme coin on PulseChain. Honest question. Somehow this, I don't even believe the results. Well, actually, I guess I do because they're bag holders, but so am I. But so 80-20 concentrated wealth chain in the 4 RH assets, and then 20% enjoy the current culture with memes. Boy, I just have so many thoughts on this. And I just want to make clear, because it's so hard on the internet and stuff these days, I don't think anything negative or badly about Brizology at all. I love him. I love his show with Maddie. I know he appreciates our show and watches our show. And he's admitted, I mean, he disagrees with things we say and stuff like that. And I think we've always been able to do that civilly. And I appreciate what he does for the community. And he's a good voice in it, I think. Before I give my opinion or anything, I'm interested in your take on this poll question, I guess, at all, Ewok, and then I guess what your opinion is too, because I have some thoughts on it myself.
So my first thought on this is, all right, we're talking about PulseChain, we're not talking about Ethereum. When you talk about meme coins on Ethereum, it's so very hard to know who the founder is, to know who their background or what their background is, where they came from. Are they a serial rug puller? Are they, just creating scam coins? In the past, we've always known them as that, right? Meme coins come up, they come and they go just as quickly. And if you're not in the first 5 minutes, you are not going to make anything. Even the people that get in a little bit later, most likely they're going to lose their money. It is still a zero-sum game, right? There's going to be losers and there's going to be winners. But we're talking about PulseChain now. We're talking about a different group of people that come from a different mindset. Not saying we don't have scammers here, because we do. But a lot of the meme coins that I've seen come out, there's a core group of people, or a couple core groups, that I don't believe have bad intentions. Therefore, you got to give them a little bit more credit than your typical ERC chain, where it's just a bunch of faceless anons that are launching these tokens. So they do hold a little bit more weight. I wouldn't call us a meme chain, but
no,
I think you need that type of stuff to bring them in to see what else is here, to see the store of value for Hex, and hopefully, it does become that. Right now it's taking a beating, and it's pretty obvious to everybody that it got hurt the most, probably out of all the tokens that were Richard Hart founded or whatever. That's my thought. It's just a different group, so I don't know that it's fair to classify these meme tokens as your generalized ERC meme coins, because we do know what group they're coming from, and we do know that these guys most of them have good intentions. I think that's the big difference.
I think that's a great point. Yes, I do think the PulseChain is very unique in that it's not an apples to apples compared to Ethereum. Like it's obviously it doesn't do the volume of Ethereum. It's smaller at this point, and all that stuff. And when we say the meme coins on PulseChain, let's face it, we're talking about two small ecosystems. We're talking about two things. Now, yeah, there may be 30 coins or so that people talk about, and there are certainly meme coins outside of that, but we're talking about Tangang and the Atropa ecosystem. That is what we're talking about. So once you kind of get into PulseChain and you find out those two things and you realize that they're concentrated really within like two ecosystems, yes, maybe launched by different people. Yes, maybe like the Atropa ecosystem and all that stuff has a lot of different things going on, and you got to connect the dots and stuff like that. I love what they both have to offer, because the Atropa ecosystem has all this actual like on-chain use case, potential stable coin with PDI and all these, all these things that you can really point to that are useful things that can happen for the chain eventually. Whereas the Tangang is basically meme coins, but also done so expertly with tying liquidity to other things to give everybody a fair shot to get in. And the charts just look fantastic because of it. And like you said, because it's a close, tight-knit community and people kind of know each other and everything, the commitment is there. You're not like, yeah, some people dump prices at some point, but go check out some of the Tangang coins. Like check out Pair, check out Chiton, check out and all this stuff. You don't see huge dips. Like the biggest pullbacks sometimes only like 30%. Like you just don't see it. Like OMG recently, we were talking about Orange Man Good, and like I was pissed that I didn't get in when it was just kind of flatlining before it really took off. I've been trying to tiptoe in. It's touched like 50% off for about 20 minutes so far. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, they don't go down. So I agree with your point entirely on that. I guess a bigger point that I wanted to make about this, and I don't know what Brizz's intentions kind of were with the tweet, like I guess maybe he was just curious what people would say. I just don't think it's useful to think about this, though. I mean, maybe if you want to have like a dream type world or something, but I would just rather go with what is, and we know what is. I mean, if you want to to me, it doesn't have to be these two things, these two concrete things where it's like, okay, a meme chain and all these memes, or all the PulseChain tokens are up really well. Well, yeah, clearly, if that were the price, if what he has on that tweet were the price of all the PulseChain tokens right now, I mean, we would be doing pretty goddamn well. You know what I mean? So yeah, of course, I would love that. But it isn't based in reality at all. So I just when you yearn after things like that and resist what is, I think you're just going to suffer. You know what I mean? And especially in a market like this, you're just not going to do well, because you're not going with the flow and you're not going with what is. And if you want to fight against that, that's fine. And I don't think anybody's going to do poorly by being in the core assets, but at all. I mean, it's the concentration of my entire crypto portfolio. Of course, I don't think that. I just think that to go against the grain and not see what is and see what these things are doing doesn't mean you have to invest in them, but like to root against them, and like, I'll mention Crypto 7 because he does actively root against them. I just think that you're not going to be happy. You know what I mean? Just at least accept it for existing. Don't buy them if you don't want to, but to wish it didn't exist and think that it's hurting the chain or whatever. I'm not saying that's what Briz is saying. I don't think that's going to serve you well in any market. Like, forget about PulseChain. I think like not, look at anything. I mean, like, it's the people that it's Bitcoin maxis, like, oh, Ethereum's a scam and all this. I mean, okay. I mean, if that's how you want to look at it, but there's a whole market out there, and markets tend to become efficient over time, as somebody once said. So
I heard that too before. So, here's the other thing though. If we didn't have, because if we did have just the four assets and everybody fully focused on those four assets, what do you think the price would be at right now? I mean, I think they would be great. I think if there were, I think there's so much other money going into a lot of these that it's become spread way thin. And in order to keep up, you've got to onboard that many more new people, right? Now, this does make it a grassroots movement, where you do have to onboard new people, whether it be meme coins, core coins, whatever they are. But it's going to take a little bit longer, I think, to catch up. Whereas if a lot of these things weren't invented or weren't, and they were putting their time, energy, advertisement, money into the four core things, I think we'd see a lot better price right now, and I think we would also see a lot less toxicity and drama.
Well, I don't know about the toxicity and drama, but I mean, so I guess my question would be, what's happening on the chain in that case then? Like this is the thing that people talked about at the beginning, where it's like, well, I just like what's happening on PulseChain then? Like if what is where's all the action at? Where's the trades for the PulseX buy and burn to continue to go up and stuff like that? Because we're seeing that nobody really, I mean, the PulseX price is purely a sample of way too many people in at the beginning and everybody dumped. So where without all these vibrant memes that are better than every other blockchain that we've seen, what are they doing? Like, are they just using these utility things?
Well, personally, I think what would have happened if that would have been the case, you would see a lot more of the P coins have a little bit more action. Maybe not. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but I think the overall sentiment of starting with the 4 pillars and getting them built first would have drawn some people over to claim their tokens. Maybe say, well, these guys got a lot going on. Look at the volume on these 4 different things. Right now, there's so many things that are spread out that there is a lot of volume and there's a lot of activity, but it's just spread amongst so many different little things that don't have a lot of liquidity, don't have a lot of value, $10-15 million market cap coins that aren't standing out to anybody. And I think that had we focused on the 4 originally, you would have seen a lot of the CRO guys and the Matic guys and the whoever else had a bunch of tokens that were free airdrops might have come over to play a little bit more. Again, it's total speculation, but that's just my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, that narrative, the world's largest airdrop narrative, which is cool and an awesome idea. I mean, a guy that's way smarter than me thought of it. And it honestly, it could still play out. I mean, it is factual, like it was the world's largest airdrop, but in terms of it benefiting people and people coming across the chain, I mean, hey, we could still see that by the end of this cycle. I mean, that's when things could get unbelievably interesting for PulseChain, and that would be cool. I guess my thing would also be like, who's to say that people wouldn't start just dubbing those meme coins? You know what I mean? Like, because frankly, like even some of them that have done well, like P Cult or P Link recently, like I saw somebody criticizing somebody else for being a DJ messing around with P Link the other day because it has like $2,000 of liquidity or something like that. So, I mean, people kind of look at those from a meme coin perspective also now. Now I understand it, like it is the copy of a token of another chain that has value and yada yada, and it's not like the picture of a banana, but the market likes the picture of the banana. Yeah. So for me, it's one of those things where maybe it's not that interesting of a thing to say, but I just don't see the point in wishing something was. I mean, it's like, why is the sky blue? It's just, my dad used to say, wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first, and to me, that's just like, what's the point of the hopium and the dreaming and wishing that everything was in those 4 core tokens and we were all already millionaires and stuff like that. It isn't what's happening. So I'd rather go with the flow,
And I don't think honestly, at this point, I don't think the adoption will come for those other tokens until ETH gas gets out of control. And then people are going to be like, oh, hey, we could still play around because this is still much better priced over here. So I think that honestly is what we have to wait for before PulseChain gets any kind of adoption from those other tokens.
Yeah. Let me ask you this angle of it, and we don't have to necessarily get personal with different people, but I think it's interesting because of the personalities and people are kind of going back and forth. And I want to say that I'll actually proceed this with this point. KG on that stream space that we listened to on Sunday a little bit, you and I, he did a really good, and we're talking about brother KG, the creator of the Internet Money Wallet. He had a space the other day with some people on, and he made a great point that like, the infighting or like the passion about like meme coins, no meme coins, Tangang versus Atropa ecosystem, B Roots versus Too Spooky or Orange Gooey or whatever the hell. Even though like you can see that stuff on Twitter and it can hurt you, ruin your day, or put you in a bad mood or whatever, which is a reason that I don't like to be on there very often. One could argue, and actually, I don't even know that it is an argument. I think it is true that it is a sign of a strong ecosystem. Like, what you don't want is people not talking. And that is happening on a lot more chains than PulseChain right now. Like, there's a lot of chains where there is, you're just basically out in the desert right now. Yeah. So I think the fact that we have this, whether you call it fighting or drama or whatever you want to call it, the fact that we have that passion there and people are going back and forth, I think is great. And a lot of people lately have called out KDP because, she's basically the biggest, RH Homer, Maxi cheerleader for PulseChain, PulseX Hex, and everything like that there is, to her credit. And she's done a lot to grow the ecosystem and all that stuff. But she's, like, said positive things about Tangang, and then B Roots, I think, was saying negative things about her, and people were crapping on her for that and calling her a sellout and stuff like that. And I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts on that, because it's interesting to see somebody like her when prices of PulseChain is finally down, and you're seeing what you just said, Ewok, like the Tangang community and them, all the things they're doing and kind of building trust and stuff like that. Getting somebody even like a KDP to come over. Now, if somebody can convince Crypto 7 to come over, that's what I want to see what that is. I want to see what that token is. But yeah, what do you make of that? I don't think Katie deserves, any hate or anything like that. But yeah, what do you make of all that?
I don't think she deserves any hate either. She's been, like you said, probably one of our best cheerleaders, the most bullish all the time. No matter what was going on, she remained bullish. She remained in belief of what was happening, and of Richard and what he was building and what he was doing, and why the things were what they were. And so what, it's like someone says something about this token, and then the other side comes at you because you didn't say anything about them. I think that's why the things happen. Obviously, B Roots is a polarizing person who likes the spotlight on himself. And doesn't like it when the spotlight is on someone else.
Right.
So it's to be expected from someone like that. I'm personally not a fan of the way he does business, or his private group. I'm not a fan of that type of thing, because we all know what happens behind closed doors in groups like that.
Well, behind closed doors, he's taking videos of him when he's in the shower.
In the shower, yeah. I mean, so. And just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't watch what's going on. I watch from the shadows a lot and just don't comment, don't say anything, probably have a little chuckle to myself, and I move on. But yeah, I don't think she deserves any of that. Like I said, Katie's been a very steadfast believer of everything, and she's done great things, and she's grown her following like crazy, so what can you say? I don't think it's right. I don't think she deserves any of that.
Yeah. Well, it is, kudos to Brazology for at least making that poll, because I think it really sparked a lot of good conversation. And sure. I like PulseChain the way it is. I mean, yeah, I do agree. I'm kind of in the middle ground there. I would have loved it, obviously, if the core tokens had gone up more sooner. And we still had this other, these vibrant communities that are coming out of it. And I understand why some OGs and stuff like that are, get pissed with like the Tangang. Like, I've heard spaces with Orange Gooey going on about, PulseChain being a failure so far and stuff like that. Like, I understand, if that triggers people and stuff like that. But, I would rather just take the market for what it is, go with the flow, and benefit from it, than wish things were one way or the other.
Yeah.
So,
well, just we know those guys bought in or sacrificed or whatever you want to call it. I don't think I've ever heard so many people FUD their own bags. Like, at least I think they're still holding. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they sold everything, and that's why they're happy to bash it. But for the most likely, if I had to take a guess, I would say they still hold a lot of the sacrifice tokens. So I don't understand why people FUD their bags. If you don't like something, don't talk about it, but you don't tear it down for other people to see. So just my added 2 cents there.
I hear you, DJ and Moonboy. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. Thanks, guys, for continuing to be solid and consistent week in and week out. Well, we try We try to never take a break, although it happens occasionally. Sometimes there's a vacation or this or that or the other thing, but we're always here. You're always here too, DJ Moonboy. I think you've skipped out a couple of times, though, if I'm not mistaken. But you truly are.
Everybody needs a vacation.
Yeah, everybody needs a big vacation. And DJ Moonboy, he is a DJ, but he did miss out on Pika. So I'm going to go get that Pikachu. Pikachu, I choose you. Okay, let's move on. So if you guys are enjoying this stream so far, I definitely am. This is a good chat tonight. I'm fired up with a good conversation here. Thanks, Briz, for that poll to help us with some content here. But hit the like. We appreciate you being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys very much for being here. Let's turn our attention to this. This was such a great thing. We've been talking about this Manet initiative for weeks now, that PBD, Patrick Bet-David, and his podcast have launched. The app, I think, was created by PBD and his company Valuetainment. Manet is basically an app where you can send an audio or video, I believe, question to an expert of your choice, and they will take the time for a certain fee to answer you. So that is a pretty cool thing. I mean, and there's big names on there. I mean, in this contest that he was doing, there were different weight classes, as he called them. Tulsi Gabbard was in it, a bunch of big names. But specifically in the lightweight division, and I don't know how they figured out those weights, Gary Woods, funding Jim of PulseChain fame, but also many other things. He's done many amazing things in his life. But him, Rags to Riches, Brandon, and as we've already mentioned, Brother KG of Internet Money Wallet fame, all were featured in this lightweight realm, and all of them did very well throughout the duration of the contest. Now, there were many moments in doubt where, like, Rags was winning for a while, KG was winning for a little while, Gary was winning for a while, and then all of a sudden they'd all three be out of the top five, and it was like, oh, some guy I've never heard of is winning, and it's like, man, maybe it wasn't meant to be. This thing ends now. So the Manet contest run by Patrick Bet-David ends, and Gary Woods wins the thing going away, and Brandon and KG both end up in the top five, not just top five, the top four.
Top four.
Three prominent, not just crypto guys, but PulseChain centric people that choose to put their time, money, everything into PulseChain win this contest, basically. And Gary Woods wins it overall, which I think is fantastic. Not to say that the other two shouldn't have either, but for Gary's sake, because he offers all these other great things. Not that those other guys don't, but I mean, Gary's just such a great networker and stuff, and he just has so vast life experience. And I'm glad to see him win. I would have been glad to see any of them win. But for them all to do so well, and for one of them to actually win it, so Gary will then be able to meet up again, which he already has before, I believe, but meet up with Patrick Bet-David again, have dinner with him, talk ideas and stuff like that. Clearly, crypto stuff is going to come up there. He's already talked about PulseChain with him, I think, before. Richard Hart, I didn't even realize, actually was on before with, I don't know if it was Adam Sosnick or one of the guys from the podcast. I didn't realize it. I just saw the old stream from a year or two ago the other day. But this is just fantastic. I mean, I think I thought that they wouldn't win. I don't know. I think I was thinking that somebody else would win because I kept, seeing them fall back and stuff. But to see them pull this off is just freaking amazing. And I think it'd do so much for this blockchain and crypto overall. But what do you make of this? Just fantastic that they did this well.
Yeah, I was quite pleased. I was pulling for all of them, obviously, getting 3 of the top 4 places. And the top 3 actually win dinner. I don't think it's just top 1. And so
I think you're right.
Rags and Gary both get to go meet with these guys and put a bug in their ear. And the things are really just, the stars are kind of starting to line up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes time. And anybody that was expecting all this stuff to happen overnight and get a 50x, and it takes time. It very, very much so. When you build something organically like this, these things take time and things fall into place. And it goes to show what happens when the community gets behind somebody and puts their mind to it. Great things happen. I mean, look at the total votes. They're over 1,200 votes, or 1,200 Manets for those 3 guys alone.
Right.
So it's crazy to see what happens when people put their minds together. So I'm quite pleased. Couldn't be happier for Gary and And all three of them, Rags too. They'll both get to have dinner with PBD, and hopefully KG gets some honorable mention, and it leads to something. It leads to some contacts and some investors and some people believing in this and being like, wow, this is a pretty great community. They look into it and they see the activity over here that we're still in this little echo chamber of our own, that people just don't realize that we're here. It takes time. It takes time, and it's happening slowly but surely, but it's coming.
I agree. I've been listening to PBD here and there the last couple of days just to see if he went over the results and stuff. I haven't heard him do it yet, but I mean, I also haven't listened to the whole podcast or anything like that. But this is just awesome. It'll be cool to see what comes of it. PBD is obviously a guy with many, many resources, and to instill trust in him, have a couple of huge crypto guys with him that have PulseChain front and center like that, I think is just going to be great. We've already seen Gary, B Roots, all these people allegedly potentially talk. B Roots claims to have told Trump that he should launch his next Trump NFTs on PulseChain and stuff like that. So we have seen these guys in big rooms with big people talking about PulseChain. So it's just awesome. I mean, these are the people doing the real work. We always shout out Corey and Dane, of course, too, with all their real estate buddies and them, paying to go to events and talk PulseChain and everything. It's just so awesome that we have these advocates out here. And, you don't really see things like this in a lot of other blockchains. It's just not, grassroots like this one is as much, so just awesome right now. So, all right. So we'll continue to pay attention to that story, and I'm sure we're going to see what comes of it and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll see stuff from, when the dinner happens with PBD and all that stuff. So it'll be cool to keep following up on that.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll live stream it too, or at least,
dinner?
clip it. Maybe not live stream it, but they'll have clips. Gary's very good at putting clips together of
that's true
of his escapades and the things that they participate in, and usually put something together, a nice little video of what they're doing. So I've seen the ones from him in Miami. I've seen the ones when they did the yachts and when they rented the yachts. And so, I'm sure we'll see some of the highlights from it at least.
Yeah. Will be very interesting indeed. Yeah, we'll definitely look out for those. Let's turn our attention to this. So some big updates from a couple of huge platforms for PulseChain that are really impactful here. Great news. Like you're saying, the stars starting to align. We're seeing so many bullish things happen right now. We'll start off with Coast real quick. If you wanted to pull their tweet up. So 0x Coast, we've talked about them many, many a time. One of the easiest ways to bridge on, well, technically you're not bridging, but to get onto PulseChain straight from your bank account onto PulseChain. Seemingly out of the blue, Coast is back to onboard people onto PulseChain. They'd been gone for a couple of months now. They were having issues with the bank that they were previously using. Allegedly have over 10 new banks that they are working with that I don't think they're all squared away yet, but they at least have enough squared away and ready to go that they felt comfortable launching and getting things back up and going again. Now, I had heard a report that maybe it was going to be not until the fall until they were back up and running. So for them to be back already here in June, I didn't even think about this, but I mean, who knows how much that could impact the price that we're seeing right now, or like people onboarding that way. So awesome to see them back. We'll kind of dissect their tweet here, see what's working, see what's not, see what they're kind of getting back up and running. But the bare bones of it is up and running and good to go again from what I can really see from this. So this is fantastic. I know you have used them personally, Ewok, multiple times. Go ahead and we'll kind of break down what they say here. And how impactful do you think this is?
Yeah, so it says key details regarding launch process. It says we're back. Step 1, first stage enables international, which are existing users, before US users and new customers, which is live now. Step 2, in terms of features, we're starting with depositing USD and minting Coast directly on PulseChain. Then both direct gasless buys from USD to Pulse and burning redemptions will be added. So that's a new feature. New users from all countries will need to wait a bit longer. So basically, the first step was the existing users. I think they're going to kind of use them as the beta and test through it just to make sure there's no hiccups. And then new users from the rest of the countries will be able to have to go through the KYC provider. It says existing users don't need to re-KYC. So if you've not done this yet, you will have to go through the KYC again, or not again, but you'll have to go through the KYC process. And it says we are integrating with a big tier 1 bank domestically in the United States. Surprise. So you'll all have access when that is complete. So if I read this correctly, existing international users only right now, current users from the US probably next, and then it starts from new users from everywhere else.
Right.
It says it's been a huge effort. We're proud to be back. Our only goal is to allow new money to flow into PulseChain. If you have any problems, use the intercom chat, which works very well. They are very responsive. So if any of you out there, non-US people that are trying to get through, it does work. It takes them just a couple minutes, and one of those guys will respond to you and start with the customer support. So it's very good. They're very responsive. Give them a little bit of a break while they get back into this. All these processes and processes are new, so please, don't bash them right away if something happens. Again, that's why they're kind of releasing this in stages so that they can get all their ducks in a row and get it working properly.
I think it's terrific. And, correct me if I'm wrong or what your thoughts are on this, but I think we'll see even more use with Coast. I mean, clearly they also just came right back and are getting their ducks in a row, like you said. But as we see the bull market rage on and we do see those ETH gas fees get worse and worse, I mean, we already know that there are alternatives to the regular bridge for PulseChain. Honestly, though, it's what I've been using exclusively now for weeks. Not only has Coast not been up, but also it's just Gwei has been so low on ETH. So it's been fantastic just to use the pulsechain.com bridge. We also, of course, have Spark Swap, which, it depends on how much you're sending over. You're going to have to look at your own circumstance. How much are you sending over? What are the ETH gas fees like at the time? But Coast, I'll tell you what, I mean, like when we get into those bigger parts of the bull market, and Coast is also really good for sending over large amounts too. Like if you wanted to do a wire transfer or something like that. When we get into those times where bridging may cost $50 or something, which is going to happen. I mean, that is going to happen as this bull market goes on. It may be more beneficial for you, depending on how much you're sending over, again, to use Coast, do an ACH transfer or something like that. So I think it's fantastic to have them back. Go ahead with Fast Abdul here.
Fast Abdul says Power City Portal X Bridge is integrating with MEXC. This will allow for much cheaper and more efficient bridging to PulseChain from many chains, and that's a big win. Now, unfortunately, Fast Abdul, I don't know where you're from, but we here in the States are not allowed to use MEXC. So I don't know if that will affect it, or just because them integrating with it will allow them to use it anywhere. So I don't know. That'll be something interesting that we need to look into.
Well, if what they're doing, because we've seen Portal X swap before and how that works and everything. If you don't have to actually use MEXC or do like KYC stuff from the US or anything, and it just is using Portal X swap, maybe it is still accessible for US citizens because we can still use Portal X swap. So
sure.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But if it's coming straight out of MEXC, then yeah, US citizens wouldn't be able to use it. But that's okay. I mean, we're still talking about a top 10 chain or exchange, excuse me. So yeah.
Although 60 to 70% of users are from the United States, to be honest. And I forget where I heard that stat. But
so he just confirmed what I was speculating, actually. He said, actually, sir, you would not be using MEXC, you would be using Portal X 100% USA legal and DeFi. So it sounds like it's MEXC maybe just on like the back end providing, for them to be able to come from different chains and stuff. So we do know the Portal X swap you can use from anywhere. So
nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, didn't know that. And I know, we talked about Portal X swap way back in the day when it was like just kind of launching and I don't think it was totally working correctly and stuff like that. But it's an awesome tool that you can bridge over to PulseChain 2 steps in one, basically. And for them to be using MEXC as well as liquidity routing. There you go.
Yep.
Perfect way of saying it. So that's fantastic. Yet another good thing. So we're seeing all these different ways. Yeah. yeah,
stars are aligning.
they definitely are. Glad to see Coach back. Thank you for that, Fast Abdul, as well. We will look out for that from Portal X Swap as well.
Give Andre a little shout out here. PulseChain is Solana's ugly little sis at the moment, so that's what he thinks.
Well, you know what the ugly little sister usually turns out to be. Just
Yeah.
warning you, Andre. So if you know anything about how that goes. Awesome stuff. So thank you guys for your feedback there. We have more huge announcements. So I think we should go to the Tetra Omnis one now. So, you know, for quite some time, we have sung the praises of Pateus as a DEX aggregator for a very long time. It's done well for both of us. I mean, it's, you know, been the best place to go and execute trades as long as you're not totally degenning out, which 9mm is much better for, I think. And I have used that as well. But Pateus, in terms of like routing, you know, being able to get the best price on what you're going after, has been awesome as a DEX aggregator. But now it sounds like we might have some of that from the Tetra team and one of their products, Omnis, which is their DEX. If you want to bring up that tweet as well. And thank you for the super chat. Honda Trump AI Pulse is available on, I never know how to pronounce that, but he says that on our channel all the time. No KYC. I don't know where that's available, and I don't know how to pronounce whatever that is.
Zegex would be my guess on how to pronounce it, but I don't know. I never heard of it either. So
he says it's a centralized exchange. You can send XRP or something there, sell it by PulseChain, then withdraw it with low fees. I will look into it. I've never heard about it before, but yeah, kudos to you. I don't know if you're getting paid by ZegX. I'm just saying that tongue-in-cheekly, but you definitely have been a fan of them, and you have commented on a lot of our videos with that. So I will check that out. Yeah, because you have really banged the drum on that, Honda. So yeah we'll check that out.
Thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. But yeah, Omnis updates from the Tetra guys. Omnis now has integrated all DEXs on PulseChain. Multi-hops and multi-pull swap orders now give you excellent prices on your swaps. And we've got the whole tweet here as well. If you wanted to check it, maybe we'll just read what they say. Yeah, multi-hops and multi-pull swap orders now give you excellent prices with highly optimized gas and super fast execution when comparing quotes. Be sure to keep an eye on minimum expected outputs for your trades. This is a huge upgrade, and we look forward to community feedback on this. Oh, yeah, I forgot. They have those 5-for-1 swaps, too. They're temporarily disabled while we monitor the new swap router upgrades. This will be reactivated in around a week. Limit orders now too, so you can now edit your limit orders. I think they already had limit orders, but you can now edit your limit orders if the market moves against you or your projections change. There's no fee for editing an order, and you can make changes as often as you like. Please allow 24 to 48 hours for the legacy orders to appear on the front end. Emergency stop loss is now available for limit orders on Omnis. The default is set to 10% loss limit, which you can manage to your preferences using the slider. Limit orders have been restricted to PulseX pools only for the next week or two while we monitor routing through and now updated contracts. This will be switched after some monitoring of performance. When reactivated, this will support all DEXs and pools with multi-hop and splitting for even better order execution. Compound limit orders now live. Use this feature to automatically swing ratio trade between up to 3 assets. The ability to set stop loss limits on each leg of an order is also available. Like standard limit orders, the compound limit orders will execute on PulseX pools only, and will switch on support for all pools and DEXs at the same time. We reactivate this for standard limit orders. Next steps, we'll be moving to launch our liquidity management module next. Completion of this will officially see Omnis come out of beta, paving the way for staking. Stratu beta and Atlas, I think it's Stratus, they missed the S probably, and Atlas beta. There will be other parallel enhancements and add-ons that don't affect our core roadmap, blah, blah, blah. So this is phenomenal. I mean, this is a huge upgrade for Omnis, adding all those things. But the biggest thing, I mean, the DEX aggregator, will this give, Pateus a run for its money? Will it work better than Pateus? I think we got to test it, but you and I, we've sung the praises of Pateus for some time. So yeah, what do you make of these updates? It's great to see this from them. I think these guys have been on the up and up really from the beginning. So I'm really happy to see this. So what do you think?
Yeah, another shout out to Honda Trump real quick there. He threw us another $1.99. I think CA is Canadian, but
appreciate it, bud.
Thanks again. Yeah, no, it's great. These guys are doing stuff. I think anything that gives another thing that we use, Pateus, some competition is great, right? It kind of keeps them both pushing for more, which is fantastic. Anytime you can do that, it kind of, whether it creates a little competition, the moral of the story, it all helps everything. especially the buy and burn, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, a
Yep.
little bit here, a little bit there. Now these guys are doing it too. The stop loss is definitely helpful. I think these guys are the only one that still do that 5-to-1. Like you can swap
Yeah.
5 different little tokens for one big one, or whatever, 5 big ones for one, whatever it is. But it's pretty cool, that idea. It combines everything. Um, yeah. The other thing that I noticed too was a lot of times when you switch a limit order on a DEX, excuse me, you do have to pay a transaction fee. They're saying it doesn't cost you now to edit your limit orders, which is pretty cool. So
Mhm.
just
Yep.
lots of good things. These guys are apparently have been working hard in the background, and I don't think they get enough attention. Once they come out with that other protocol, I think it's going to be pretty awesome, where you can set it up to do several steps, right? So
Mhm.
for me personally, I'll tell you, you know, there's 3 or 4 things that I really like to do because I have a staking ladder that goes out forever, right?
Mhm.
Before I end my stake, though, I want to claim my communist token. Before I end my
Yeah.
stake, I want to end my hedron, or claim my hedron, and then end my stake. Well, if you can set this thing up to do it, it will do all 3 of those in the order that you want it to be done, probably saving on gas as well. I would imagine. I don't know if it'll cost more or less, but I would imagine it would be more efficient to do it that way. It's going to be pretty cool. And there's other things that, you know, happen along the way. I know you've got the, well, I don't know if we're going to talk about it tonight, but the liquid hex is another new thing for people
Mhm.
that have stakes, and it rewards the long-term stakers that haven't sold a whole lot and this and that and the other thing. But yeah, these guys are doing some really cool things. It's pretty awesome to see this, and I know they're one of the few that have limit orders. I know 9mm has them,
Mhm.
um, and does 9" have them? I believe 9"
I
also
think
has.
they do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
So, but yeah, we don't even have them on Pulse X yet. So
Right.
I'm assuming that we'll see a lot of these things, as well as the bull market starts to really get here. Might see some upgrades here and there a little bit. Um, Always going to be good to see, but yeah, it's exciting to see the work that's being done.
I totally agree. And again, these guys have been on it since the beginning. So really awesome stuff. Oh, and you know, I don't think we've really even mentioned this either, but Fast Abdul says too, 2Fux is now live. Get 2.5x yield on any Fux protocol. APR is over 300%. So yeah, that just went live recently as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, we've just got like a trifecta of updates here, from ways to onboard in a PulseChain, ways to trade on PulseChain from 2 different platforms. Yeah, just amazing. Yeah. And as he points out, Omnis is the only aggregator with limit orders. So yeah, and
right.
actually he is right. Yeah, 9mm doesn't actually have limit orders at the time, but you're right about 9". So
Gotcha. Okay.
Fast Abdul cleaned up our mess. We appreciate it, man. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think I've seen you a lot on you were on with Corey and Dane last week. So yeah, good stuff from you, man.
I see Fast Abdul all over the place in the chats, by the way,
He's
too.
fast. He's all over the place.
He's all over the place. Give him credit, man. He's out there.
Yeah.
Welcome, Johnny. Good to
Johnny
see you.
Chaos in the chat telling everybody, hey, we're going to see a lot of these 20% ups and downs, so get ready for it for sure. Definitely on a day like today, it is welcome. Yeah, because we're going up. So appreciate it, Fast Abdul and Johnny. Why don't we, I tell you what, why don't we kind of do, you can kind of do a double bullet one here, because I think these things have a little to do with each other. You wanted to talk about the liquid hex thing from Ben Sierra for a couple of weeks. Leading into that, why don't we just acknowledge a tweet that neither one of us and many others didn't understand at all, from Alex McWhirter, the creator of Icosa and Hedron, of course, 2 things to kind of booster Hex over the last few years. Of all the things that have been built on top of Hex to make it, other than just earning, you know, extra Hex through the T-shares, to make it more valuable, Icosa and Hedron have really been the one that the market has decided that this is the one we want. And Alex McWhirter was a creator of it. Richard Hart has even given it a shout out before, which is also very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically he tweeted the other day, we know that he's been in the works to with cross-chain, with Ethereum versions and PulseChain versions of both of these, and then Richard Hart also with the eHex tweet a couple of months ago. He's had some thinking to do, but Alex has for some time now wanted to create a basically melding of these two tokens, Icosa and Hedron, into icosahedron, where essentially, as he outlined before, there'd be about a 30-day period where if anybody wanted to, they could put all of their Icosa, all their Hedron into a pool, basically send it away to get back icosahedron. He said migrating 360 terabyte, I assume, of ZFS data sets to new hosts this weekend, preparing for some big things, which didn't take so long, like watching paint dry. Ha ha ha. Hexagon Hill, like many of us, just doesn't understand it at all. So it sounds like he doesn't give many updates. Like he hasn't been around much often, and I understand it. He's a guy that likes to work in the shadow. If you look at him, you look at what he looks like, you look at his beard. This is a workman. Okay, this is somebody that's back behind the scenes putting in the work. Okay, so he's not a diva on camera like us, even though Ewok does have a big beard too. But he's putting the work in. We know something's coming here. I'm really, really excited to see it. So anyway, what do you make of this? Even though we don't totally understand it, we know he has a huge warehouse at this point with all kinds of stuff going on. What do you make of this? And then, you can kind of translate into that right into the liquid hex thing, since these are both beneficial for hex.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I don't really understand what he's doing either, other than, basically what he's telling us is that he's migrating 360 terabytes of data, probably from one server to the other. And it takes a long time. That's a ton of information. Don't know what he's doing with those data sets. I don't know what he's setting up. One can only hope that he is working on the Icosa 2 protocol. He didn't really answer, I don't think. I looked down through this earlier because I knew we were going to talk about it tonight. I looked down through the chat and I didn't see any other comments by him. So I don't think he really explained it, what he was doing with them, other than just transferring data. So it's kind of a, hey guys, I'm still here doing some work. Wish it didn't take long, but kind of keep you posted as we go. So that's all I got, really. I mean, he doesn't give us much information at all, other than he's just moving data. So.
Right. Well, either way, it's good to see an update from a guy who doesn't traditionally give very many of them, and that he's still out there working. And hey, we see how quickly Icosa and Hedron move. I mean, today, at least Hedron, I think they both were probably up 20%. Icosa is super scarce. I mean, those things, when this market really takes off, I mean, are going to absolutely melt faces. I think it's going to be insane.
I agree.
It's going to be
agree.
Insane.
It's gonna be pretty crazy. So your other question, second half of your question about liquid hex. So this is going to be something for the more advanced user, probably more advanced than I am, because I don't think I'm even going to play around with it. What it is a self-run protocol. The problem is, you have to go in, you have to install Python to your system. You have to gather a bunch of the Merkle tree information, plop that into the database for Python to work from, and then run some sort of script. And at that point, then you can mint your liquid hex. And, we're supposed to be making things easier for people and not more difficult. I don't know what that will do for the asset, because you're not going to get a lot of degen people probably doing this and dumping it. Only the people that really know how to do that stuff are going to be able to take advantage of it. Does that make it more diamond handed? I don't know. Should be an interesting experiment, I think. But either way, what it is if you I think if you've never emergency end staked, you're eligible. I think if you've sold under, I forget what the threshold is. I think it's 50,000. If you haven't sold under 50,000, you're also eligible. So these couple things really just disqualify you. So that Merkle tree of addresses that's out there has filtered all of those people that have done the above things. and pull them out of the data set. So those people are no longer eligible to do it. So if your address meets up with those qualifications, then you can run this script. And I believe you have 1 year prior to your stake ending and 1 year post end. Now, I don't know about the post end if you have to do it before you end your stake. Obviously, if you wait a full year, your stake will bleed. I think it's 1%. Actually, it's 2 years. So your stake would have bled by half if you wait a full year to end your hex stake anyway. So, you don't want to do that, but you can if gas prices were out of control and this stuff became extremely valuable. You could mint your liquid hex and maybe make money to get and sell and then end your stake, so you could afford to end actual stake if it does get that expensive. But yeah, it's just another reward token that only certain people will be able to qualify for, and it's you can't have emergency end stake. I know a lot of the early people did emergency end stake, but it was only to restake longer. Like they screwed up their staking ladder, so they emergency end staked a lot of things so that they could push it out further before big payday happened. So I think that will in itself probably disqualify a lot of people. So sorry for those guys. But yeah, it's just another protocol. I just think it's going to be a little difficult for the average person to get into. I'm going to do a little more research and see how difficult it is. I will probably do it on another computer because I do all my crypto stuff on its own dedicated computer. I don't really like installing stuff that I'm not sure of. I don't want to open up a port that I shouldn't and just cause problems. So, it's going to take some testing and time. And again, I don't know how much they are, how much they're worth. I haven't done any of that research. I just know that there's a lot involved to the claiming process. So
yeah,
if you're experienced at Python and you know what you're doing, maybe somebody can create a front end that works really well. That does it for you. I don't know. That would be something to consider.
Good stuff indeed. Both the updates from Alex and also Liquid Hex coming for Hex as well. So good stuff. I think we're going to have, again, we talked about so many bullish things for this ecosystem here tonight. I mean, not only, the prices today anyway going up, but I mean, bigger picture, we got an Ethereum ETF approved. We think that ETH is going to pump in the not too distant future. We have all these updates with Coast now coming on board, Tetra tonight. Alex McWhorter's got stuff going on. We're talking the meme coin debate and everything. I mean, things are happening here. The price of PulseChain hasn't necessarily reflected for the year of its existence, but last I checked, it takes more than a year to really make crazy gains in crypto. So people got to stick around for that. So we are getting there. We are getting there. I am very bullish right now. I don't know if you heard that little alarm noise in the background, but I'm very bullish right now. We have things are about to pop off. So this stream tonight, how many people were involved, I think is indicative of it. So we appreciate all you guys being here. Nicholas, Jorn, Hex Girl, DJ Moonboy, of course, Blue Diesel, Fast Abdul, Doug Carver, Honda Trump, Johnny, of course. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Did you have any final thoughts at all tonight, Ewok?
We couldn't do this if you guys weren't supporting us. So we appreciate it, man. Our subscription count is steadily growing. If you're just tuning in for the first time, make sure you like, subscribe, tick the bell. We appreciate it, man. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be doing this every week if it weren't for you guys. So I just want to say thanks to everybody.
Thanks indeed. And if you aren't subscribed, just remember that Travon is subscribed to our channel and frequently watches us. So that is always good to know. The Hex OG, practically a crypto OG, really. But anyway, we really do appreciate all of you guys. Every week that the chat is so active and stuff like that, it makes the show 10 times better. So we appreciate all you guys being here and being along for the ride, because we still have a good 12 to 18 months to go here. And let's hope we're all celebrating big time together at the end of it. I know we're going to be here until the end. So we will be here. We'll be here next Wednesday, June the 12th at the same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Boi Crypto. Thank you, producer Jake. You're the man. We'll catch you guys next week right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys.